Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports with UFC 5 on the horizon. In today's video, we're going to be diving into 4 fighters that are absent from UFC 4 that need to be in UFC 5. The first 2 fighters on my list not only are ranked fighters, but they are also undefeated fan favorites. Then the last 2 fighters on my list not only are highly ranked in the UFC, but they're actually both ranked 3rd in their respective division. It really is crazy that UFC 4 has 2 fighters that are ranked 3rd in their respective divisions and are still not in the game. So without further ado, let's get into it. And the first fighter I'm of course referring to is going to be Ian Machado Garry. Ian Machado Garry last Saturday just got a very impressive win over Neil Magny. Not only that, but Ian Machado Garry is currently the 13th ranked fighter in the welterweight division, and that ranking is only going to go up from here. Ian Machado Garry is expected to fight a top 10 fighter in his next fight, and he's going to be ranked potentially top 5 very soon. Not only that, but as I mentioned previously, he's currently undefeated at 13-0, and he's currently 6-0 in the UFC with 2 really nice ranked wins, again over Neil Magny and against D-Rod, getting a very nice 1-2 head kick KO versus D-Rod. One of the keys for adding fighters into UFC 5 is of course playability. You want to add fighters who are very fun to use, and Ian Machado Garry would outright be one of the most unfair, very fun to use strikers in the entire UFC 5 game. Why do I say that? He's 6'3" with a very long reach in the welterweight division. Not only would that make him one of the longer fighters in the division, it more or less would be a welterweight version of what Max Holloway is for the 145-pound division, with that really nice boxing, those really nice kicks, and that very good defensive grappling. Of course, Ian Machado Garry does have that judo background, so he will have good defensive grappling in UFC 5. And again, the striking is going to be very fun and unique from Ian Machado Garry. There's really never been a longer fighter in UFC 4 or a UFC video game than Ian Garry in the welterweight division. He's also a fan favorite, and there really is no other active Irish fighter that is of note in the UFC with the recent absence of Conor McGregor. So not only would Ian Machado Garry be very fun to use, but he's also hitting that Irish market that no longer is in the UFC. The number 2 fighter on my list who is also undefeated is going to be Umar Nurmagomedov in the 135-pound bantamweight division. He would be an absolute phenomenal add to that division. He's the 11th ranked fighter in the world, and he's set to get a top 10 fighter in his next fight. In fact, he was scheduled to face Corey Sandhagen, who is a top 5 fighter in that division. So Umar Nurmagomedov is going to probably be ranked top 5 in the next 2 years. So of course you want a top 5 ranked fighter in the new UFC video game. He's currently 16-0, and he is 4-0 in the UFC. He really hasn't beaten anybody of significant note yet, but make no mistake about it, the Umar Nurmagomedov highlight reel is very impressive. He would be a very fun addition to UFC 5, as not only is he of course a very good grappler, he would automatically be a top 3 grappler in that division. So if you do like using grapplers in UFC 4 or UFC 5, Umar Nurmagomedov would be a top 3 choice for you. Not only that, but he really is that new age Dagestani with that very impressive, somewhat unorthodox striking style, similar to Islam Makhachev in the sense that his kickboxing is actually sneaky good. It's very impressive. Umar also has a very nice cardio and output, so he'd have one of the better health stats in the entire division. And again, that boxing is sneaky good, so you can really use Umar Nurmagomedov as a Swiss Army knife, using him in any aspect you want, making him a very moldable player to use in UFC 5. The next fighter in this list is going to be a flyweight, the number 3 ranked flyweight in the entire world. Guys, everybody knows in UFC 4, the very worst division to play with online is flyweight, not because it's not fun to use flyweights. In fact, in my opinion, it's much better and it feels much better to use the lighter, quicker fighters in a UFC video game this is not the reason why it sucks playing with flyweights. It sucks playing with flyweights because there's nobody on the roster in UFC 4 for the flyweight division. It gets absolutely repetitive, and it feels as though any of the fighters really aren't that good in UFC 4 in the flyweight division. So why not add the third-ranked flyweight in the world, Amir Albazi? That is, of course, who I'm talking about. He's currently 17-1 right now, and he's 5-0 in the UFC. I get it. He just had somewhat of a controversial ending to that Kai Kara France fight, as a lot of people thought he lost, and he actually won via a decision. Nonetheless, guys, Amir Albazi is one of those rare fighters in the flyweight division, in the lighter division, who has a very, very, very high finish ability. This is one of the reasons people don't like using Demetrius Johnson in UFC 4, is because his finish ability and lack thereof. But with Amir Albazi, this of course is not an issue. Amir Albazi, in 18 fights, he has 14 finishes, which is absolutely incredible for the 125-pound division. And again, he's an all-around good fighter, making him a very moldable guy as well. Of course, the wrestling is very good. It's really the staple of Amir Albazi's game. He has very good level changes, and all around he's very explosive. He also has very good jiu-jitsu, and he has a lot of power on the feet, which is going to make him a very desirable character to use in UFC 5. You are going to be able to consistently outbox your opponents and damage them consistently with Amir Albazi. And now the last fighter in this video, the fourth fighter that needs to be in UFC 5, again, is another ranked fighter, third in their division. It is another division that desperately needs fighters injected into it, into the UFC 5 video game. And I am, of course, talking about the third-ranked woman strawweight fighter in the world, Yan Xiaonan. Sorry if I butchered her name, but Yan is currently not only the third-ranked fighter in the women's strawweight division, as I just said, but she's also a pound-for-pound ranked fighter, one of the only pound-for-pound ranked fighter not even in UFC 4, which is honestly an absolute joke. And the fact that she's not in UFC 4 is absolutely incredible because she's already had 10 UFC fights. She's currently 8-2 in the UFC, and she's actually fought and beaten some really good opponents in there, such as Mackenzie Dern and Jessica Andrade, two UFC 4 favorites. Again, when we are forced in online mode to use some of these divisions, such as the 125-pound men's division and the 115 strawweight division for the woman, we need more options to choose from, and Yan Xiaonan is a very fun option. Now, her grappling is definitely lacking, in my opinion. If she ends up facing Wei Zhang, she's going to absolutely ragdoll her in the grappling department. Nonetheless, Yan will be a very fun addition because she's longer and lengthier for the division. Not only that, but she is a striker, and especially in the women's divisions, people really don't like grappling. They do like striking, and again, Yan would be a very fun addition to the striking realm of the women's divisions. Thanks for listening to this list, guys. Let me know in the comment section below, do you agree with my top 4 entries that these fighters in UFC 5 are necessary and they really need to be there? Let me know in the comment section below if I missed some of your favorite fighters that are not in UFC 4 and need to be in UFC 5. Give me your top 5 desired fighters for UFC 5 tier list in the comment section below. Again, thanks for listening, guys. If you listened until the end of the video, I really appreciate it. Smack that like and hit subscribe.